what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 50 shocking facts that seem fake but are 100% real. US Highways Edition. I'm going to be splitting this into two videos because I'm having to do lots of reactions for the next 2 days to post them over the coming week. But what could there be, how could there be 50 facts about the US highways? I don't really know what sort of facts we're going to be getting into, but I'm here for it. Maybe it's going to be the history of them, how old they are, the longest ones, the shortest ones, I don't know, just weird stuff like that. But yeah, we're going to check this out. Hopefully you're going to enjoy. And let's check this video out.
Did you know that one US interstate runs underwater, while another passes through the middle of a mountain range?
Okay.
America's highways are much more fascinating than you might have ever imagined. Here are 50 facts to prove it. With number 50, let's start at the beginning. Did you know that the official name for the American interstate highway system is technically the Dwight D. Eisenhower System of Interstate and Defense Highways? That's because it was the 34th president who signed the Federal Aid Highway Act in 1956. This essentially paved the way, no pun intended, for the almost 49,000 plus miles of highways that would make up this incredible network and connect the US states together. But wait until you hear about why Eisenhower was so eager to get the highways built. Number 49. Eisenhower's interstate system wasn't just about safer civilian travel. It was also a Cold War defense strategy. With the threat of nuclear war looming, he envisioned highways that could rapidly evacuate major cities if they were targeted. The network also served a military purpose, allowing troops, weapons, and supplies to move quickly across the country in a crisis. Number 48. The interstate system had an initial budget of $25 billion, and those in charge thought that they would construct the entire system in about 12 years. They were way off. In the end, it took a whopping 35 years to build the system. As for the cost,
there's a lot of roads, so I can't even blame them, to be honest. That's a lot of area to cover.
That shot up to $114 billion, more than 4 times the original estimate. In today's money, that would be the equivalent of over $600 billion, which shows what a truly huge undertaking the interstate system really was. And more money is still being poured into it today, with several highways still under construction. Number 47. The idea for the interstate highways actually came from overseas. From Germany, to be precise. During the Second World War, Eisenhower was wowed by the efficiency of the German autobahns, or highways. He vowed to construct a similar highway network far and wide across the United States, and famously stated, after seeing the autobahns of modern Germany and knowing the asset those highways were to the Germans, I decided to put an emphasis on this kind of road building. Germany made me see the wisdom of broader ribbons across the land. Next up, number 46. There's a famous myth that says 1 in every 5 miles of interstate road has to be perfectly straight so that planes can land on it in emergencies. That's not true. However, it is true that planes can and have landed on interstate highways. It actually happens more often than you might think, but it's usually small planes, not jumbo jets, that stick the landing. In 2018, for example, a student pilot in a small plane had to land on I-8 in San Diego County after suffering engine trouble. Speaking of the I-8, food fans will certainly be surprised by the next fact about it. Number 45. I-8 is an interesting interstate highway for a couple of key reasons. It runs from San Diego in California to Casa Grande in Arizona, around 350 miles in total. About half of its length is in California, with the other half in Arizona, but that's not the most interesting thing. What is interesting, especially for avocado toast and guacamole fans, is that almost half of America's entire avocado crop grows in the areas alongside I-8. Additionally, I-8 avocado crop grows in the areas along
half of the US production?
Almost half of America's entire avocado.
That is fucking crazy.
I-8 is one of the few places where the interstate actually drops below sea level. Drivers descend more than 50 feet as they traverse the Imperial Valley. But one other part of the interstate system goes much lower than that. Fact number 44. One interstate highway passes underwater. It's the I-95. That's the main north-south highway running down the east coast from the Canadian border to Miami, Florida. At one point, while going through Baltimore, drivers on the I-95 enter a tunnel. That is the Fort McHenry Tunnel, which actually goes underneath Baltimore
I want to see an image of it.
Harbor, reaching 107 feet below sea level. That's the lowest point anywhere across the entire interstate highway system. The tunnel
Wow.
itself was built back in the 80s. For many years, it was the most expensive individual project across the whole interstate network. Now, tens of millions of vehicles pass through the tunnel each year. Fact number 43.
unreal.
That's the lowest point covered. Now let's talk about the highest point, and you might be surprised at how high America's highways can go. Interestingly, the highest part of the interstate network is also a tunnel, but this one doesn't pass underwater. Instead, it passes through the continental divide of the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. It's the Eisenhower Tunnel, named in honor of the same man who gave us the interstates. At its peak, the tunnel is over 11,100 feet above sea level. It was the highest tunnel in the world when it opened back in 1973, and it's the
Damn.
longest mountain tunnel across the entire interstate highway network. Moving on to fact number 42, many people take highways for granted nowadays. They don't realize just how helpful these huge roads actually are. Before the interstate highways were built, it could take literally months to get from one side of the US to the other.
Wow.
Eisenhower himself was part of one convoy that spent 62 days going from Washington, D.C. to California, covering less than 60 miles.
62 days. I mean, I guess cars were slower then, but yeah, I guess the lack of roads. You're just driving on like gravel or whatever it is. I don't know. You're just driving on dirt and stuff.
A day due to the harsh conditions and lack of roads. These days, thanks to the highways, that same journey can be done in about 42 hours.
Wow.
Fact number 41. While it may seem random at first glance, the interstate highway numbering system actually makes a lot of sense. The most important routes are the ones ending in either 0 or 5. Those that end in 0, like the I-10 and I-40, run horizontally across the US from east to west. Meanwhile, all of the ones that go vertically, from north to south, have numbers that
5.
end in 5, like the
Oh.
I-15 and I-25. So
That is
you can
quite
tell
useful.
whether you're going north to south or east to west across the US based on the number of the highway you're driving on. If you think that's interesting, there are several more highway number facts coming up that might amaze you as well. Fact number 40.
I wouldn't say that amazed me, but it was quite interesting.
So you know how the major interstate highway numbers work, but you may not be aware of the fact that they're laid out in a very precise order. To be more precise, the lower numbers start in the south and west part of the countries,
Makes sense.
and the numbers get higher as you move north and east. For example, I-10 runs across many southern states and is even close to the border with Mexico at certain points, while I-90 stretches across the northern states and approaches the border with Canada. Fact number 39, I-5 is the only continuous interstate highway that connects to both the Canadian border at its
Alaska?
northernmost point and the Mexican
Oh, no.
border at its southern.
Wait, I was going to say Alaska, but Alaska, I keep remembering, Alaska barely has any roads. That's pretty mad, though. So what, is this part of the longest road in the world? I can't search my computer because my Wi-Fi is not working because I'm uploading so many videos at one go, but what is I-5? Is I-5 part of the longest road? Is it part of the Pan American Highway? Part of the Pan. I assume it is, right? It is. Makes sense then.
Tip. It almost reaches a
He's gonna say it now, isn't he?
staggering 1,400 miles from one end to the other. Number 38, there's no Interstate 50 or 60. Ever notice that there's no I-50 or I-60? Well, that was intentional. Planners feared confusion since US highways 50 and 60 already existed in overlapping states. Imagine being told, just take the 50. Would that mean the original Highway 50 or a new I-50? To avoid mix-ups, those numbers were skipped entirely, keeping navigation clear and efficient. Just another example of how even small decisions in highway planning can have a big impact on everyday travel. Number 37, interstate highways don't just have major routes like I-10 and I-45. They also have minor branches with their own numbering system. These 3-digit interstates keep the last 2 digits of the major highway they connect to, like I-185 branching from I-85. But the first digit reveals even more. Even numbers mean the road loops back to the main highway, whereas odd numbers mean it's a spur that doesn't reconnect. It's a simple but clever system that helps drivers navigate more efficiently. Fact number 36. The shortest complete highway is over 3,000 miles shorter than the longest. I-97 holds the title of the shortest complete interstate highway at just over 17 miles. It stretches across Maryland from Annapolis to Baltimore, and it only covers a single county, Anne Arundel County. As for the biggest, that would be I-90. It runs over 3,000 miles in total, stretching from Seattle in the west to Boston in the east, and passing through 13 states in total. This just goes to show how varied the U.S. highway network truly is. Some of its roads take a matter of minutes to drive from one end to the other, while others take several days to traverse. Another fascinating length fact is coming right up, with number 35. One of America's highways is part of the longest road on the
Wait, so it isn't that one then?
planet. That would be the Pan American Highway, which, as the name might
Oh, so it is connected to it.
indicate, stretches across both North and South America. It runs from Alaska, through Canada, across the contiguous US, through Mexico and Central America, where it's interrupted by an area of marshland known as the Darien Gap. From there, it continues along the western edge of South America. It finishes in Argentina, stretching a whopping 19,000 miles in total.
That is
Several U.S.
crazy.
interstate highways form part of this road, like I-5, I-15, I-25, and I-35. So if you've driven on any of those, you've technically driven on the world's longest road. Fact number 34. Have you ever wondered which interstate is the oldest? The answer isn't so simple. Several states claim the title, and no one can quite agree. According to the Federal Highway Administration, the first official interstate construction began in 1956 on US 40, now part of I-70 in Missouri. But Kansas disputes this, since its section of US 40, also I-70, was already under construction before the interstate system even existed, though it was finished with interstate funds. Then there's Pennsylvania, where the Pennsylvania Turnpike, built in 1940, functioned much like the interstates that would follow. So, which one is truly the oldest? That depends on who you ask. Fact number 33. Here's a fact that'll help you get a
Earth-moving
sense of the
achievement.
scale of the interstate
Okay.
project. Close to 42 billion cubic yards of earth were moved to make way for the highways.
See, a human can't comprehend how much that really is. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know what the hell's happened here.
That's by
I don't know what that number even is. Like, I can't comprehend how much that is in my fucking noggin, can I?
far the biggest earth-moving project in the history of the planet. For comparison's sake, only 362 million cubic yards of earth were moved for the construction of the Panama Canal. That's over 100 times less. But wait, the next fact is even more astonishing. Number 32. Have you ever stopped to think about just how much concrete was needed to build the interstate system?
A
It's
lot.
hard to imagine, but this fact might make it a little easier for you to picture. According to experts, you could use all the concrete from the interstate system to make a 50-foot high and 9-foot wide wall all the way around the Earth's equator. Fact number 31. The interstate system is still technically a work in progress. It's not done, not by a
Okay.
long shot. Various projects are still ongoing all across the country. New sections of highway are still being worked on and planned for future openings, growing the interstate system 1 mile at a time. For example, the I-27 in Texas has historically linked the cities of Lubbock and Amarillo. But in 2022, planners decided to extend it further, stretching into Raton, New Mexico to the north and Laredo, Texas to the south. But that's not all. Fact number 30, there are plans in place for several future highways that may be added to the interstate system in the years to come. This list includes I-3, which would stretch from Savannah, Georgia to Knoxville, Tennessee, I-42, which would connect Oklahoma and Arkansas, I-67, which has various possible routes across Indiana, Michigan, and Kentucky, and I-99, which would run from Wilson, North Carolina to Christiana, Delaware. Obviously, not all of these plans will come to fruition, but this just shows how the interstate is a dynamic, evolving system, and it's likely to look very different 100 years from now. Fact number 29, not all interstates go to plan. In fact, one of them earned the nickname the Highway to Nowhere after its construction was effectively canceled. That
Wow.
particular highway was Interstate 170. It was supposed to run just 2.3 miles across Baltimore, Maryland. The idea was that it would link downtown Baltimore with the I-70, giving people faster access in and out of the heart of the city. But locals protested and the project was canned. This
Wow.
left the area with a small stretch of highway with no real purpose, hence the name Highway to Nowhere. Fact number 28. You might think that the interstate system is just for the contiguous United States. After all, the word interstate suggests that these roads are joining states together, so that wouldn't really work in places like Alaska or Hawaii. In fact, the interstate system does operate in both of those places, as well as in Puerto Rico. All three of these locations receive interstate funding from the federal government. Hawaii has 4 interstate highways, Alaska has 4 as well, and Puerto Rico has 3. Fact number 27. Out of all the major highways in America, I-70 might be the most fascinating to drive. Stretching over 2,150 miles, it takes travelers through bustling cities, vast natural landscapes, and quirky roadside attractions. It holds the record for the highest point in the entire interstate system at the Eisenhower Tunnel in Colorado. Along the way, it crosses both urban hubs and remote wilderness, offering some of the most scenic and diverse routes in the country. And for those who love roadside oddities, I-70 doesn't disappoint. It even passes the world's largest rocking chair in Casey, Illinois.
World's
But there's
largest
one more
rocking
thing
chair.
about I-70 that sets it apart. Fact number 26. If you ever plan a road trip along I-70, make sure you have a full tank of gas and a case of snacks before you hit the road. Why? Because this particular interstate is home to
Oh, I guess there's no like gas stations or anything. Oh, okay, that's pretty mad.
the longest stretch of highway
How
without
long?
any service stations. As it winds through eastern Utah, the I-70 has about a 105-mile stretch
Oh,
without a
shit.
single station. It's just
Bro, if you get stuck out there, you're done for. I mean, I guess there's a lot of cars. It shows here that there's quite a lot of cars that run down it. But damn, you gotta be prepared, man.
you and the open road. Next up, number 25.
Alright, we're gonna leave it at that. I'm literally gonna go straight into this reaction now, but I've got to do a lot of reactions, so I'm gonna split this into 2. But I'm gonna also save the comments for the second part. But so far, I'm enjoying this reaction. It's a bit different. I didn't realize that highways could be so fascinating, but yeah, we've got more to see. Hopefully you enjoyed so far. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.